We are now in day 2 of Superlatives Week. Myself and Corey did a snake-style draft, and we picked our top 5 breakout candidates, our top 5 busts, and our top 5 sleepers so we can bring you guys 10 of these players to target or fade in your drafts. In last year's bust video, we had on some big names like Elijah Mitchell and Dalvin Cook on Corey's video, and Damon Harris and Ezekiel Elliott on my video this time last year. If you guys enjoy, make sure you hammer the like button and subscribe to the channel if you are new. About 83.2% of you in the last 28 days have not been subscribed. So if you enjoy the content, hit that subscribe button. We are on the road to 35,000 as always, but without further ado, let's get into it. All right, starting off with my 5th player to let your Buffoon Leaguemates draft. We head on over to the desert. We head on over to Arizona with James Conner, running back of the Arizona Cardinals, going off the board as the running back 21, 62nd overall player in terms of multi-site ADP. And as one of the few names to break the running back dead zone mold in recent years, it really hurts me to put James Conner on this list, but his home league ADP of 602 is just way too high for all the risk that his profile presents. For starters, he's a 28-year-old running back, 6 seasons and over 1,100 career touches under his belt. All numbers entering the running back touch and age apex, where the numbers suggest an NFL running back to typically fall off from peak performance. And a study done recently over on fantasypoints.com by Ryan Heath basically shows the running back fantasy performance by age in terms of PPR points by the number of years that they are in the NFL. So as you guys can see, year 1, kind of a ramp-up period, 85.9% of their career average. And then we do see that peak happen in years 2 to 6. Year 2, 122.2%. Year 3, 120.7. Year 4, 120.1. Year 5, 109.7. And then year 6, 121%. However, like you can see on this graphic, once they enter year 7, they go from 121% of their career average down to 97%. So we do see a sharp decline for veteran running backs when they go from year 6 to year 7, just like James Conner is. He's never been an overly efficient player, nor viewed as one of the best running backs in the league. But the common narrative around Conner supporters is simply that he'll get the volume or look at who's behind him in the depth chart. But if our basis for propelling a back isn't his talent level or even the offensive upside of the situation, but rather they have nobody else, that's historically been a bad bet, as we as fantasy players absolutely suck at projecting workloads over the course of a full season. Banking on projectable volume has been a trap because we only give ourselves one pathway to being right. We can't bank on the player's talent level. We can't bank on, high situational value like the Kansas City Chiefs running back rushing in 15 touchdowns. We need to know that they will get that volume, and bets like Mike Davis, Mark Ingram, David Johnson, Myles Gaskin, and others in the past have been your projectable volume bets, but none of them were talented enough at that point in their careers to really blast off. And I don't necessarily believe that Conner's as washed as some of those guys are. I think he could pay off as, a low-end running back too. But I'm not banking on a back of that archetype and likely finish in round 6, knowing that it is easily the most replaceable production through the waiver wire and through late-round running back darts. Taking him around wide receiver profiles in this range that have historically hit at a very high level, especially ones with, legit top 15 upside, in my opinion, is drafting malpractice. But heading on to my number 4 bust, number 4 player to let your Buffoon Leaguemates draft, that's Dalvin Cook, running back of the New York Jets, running back 24, 66th overall player in multi-site ADP at the moment. And you would have heard Corey's case yesterday as to why Breece Hall is a must-draft breakout. But I'll take the negative angle and explain how Hall's new teammate is easily one of the worst picks in fantasy football right now. And first and foremost, it just comes down to his cost. Dalvin Cook is currently the 606 in standard 12-man fantasy football drafts in the majority of your home leagues, and yet he finds his name at running back 31, 92nd player off the board over on Underdog Fantasy. On Underdog, taking Dalvin at his current cost would be selecting him between the likes of guys like Elijah Moore, Sky Moore, Tua Tagovailoa, and Khalil Herbert. Whereas in home leagues, you're going to have to take this guy around names such as Drake London, Mike Williams, Tyler Lockett. All names I think have way better projectable seasons than a guy like Dalvin Cook. And the reason why they have a better projection going into this year is that Dalvin Cook is the definition of a running back dead zone profile, which has historically paid off about 35% of the time since 2015. And the reason why I view Dalvin Cook as a dead zone running back is that he's washed according to every metric. There was a clear downfall in his play between 2020 and 2021, and then again between 2021 and 2022. And like James Conner, he surpassed the running back touch and age apex and is entering year 7 of his NFL career as a 28-year-old running back, where, like we mentioned before, running backs typically see a drop off from their career averages. And this is combined with the fact that he's not even healthy right now. He had off-season shoulder cleanup surgery on a chronic issue dating back since he was at Florida State, an injury that Dr. Edwin Porras over at Fantasy Points brought awareness to our channel back in 2021 as a caution that it would most likely hinder him for the rest of his career. Now he enters New York on a 1-year deal in that vet role to a much more talented running back in Breece Hall at this point in their careers. And my take on the signing as a whole is that, you got a veteran quarterback with Aaron Rodgers. He wants insurance in case Breece Hall isn't fully ready, in case he starts off slow to start the year. Knowing that this team has a great shot at getting over the Super Bowl hump this year and not wanting to induce their star running back in Breece Hall to an early ramp up. But with the reports of how Breece has looked thus far in practice since returning from his knee injury, I'd expect him to resume his role as this team's main back sooner rather than later. And when you're selecting a running back in the dead zone, our goal is to take calculated swings at players that can not only meet their ADP, but downright demolish it. And if you guys play baseball, I'll just give a little baseball reference right now, because the current bet on Dalvin Cook is a bunt with your slowest hitter. Like, in theory, you're going to bunt the ball, you're going to get the first place, it's going to be all good, you expect a free base. But in game, it's more than likely that you will be thrown out at first if your slowest hitter is bunting the baseball. That's exactly what the bet is with Dalvin Cook right now. You hope he pays off at his ADP, but he simply does not have the upside at this point of his career to downright demolish it. My number 3 player to let your Buffoon League mates draft, DK Metcalf, wide receiver of the Seattle Seahawks, going off the board as the wide receiver 15, 31st overall player. And to start his case, let's play a little game of guess the player. So this is data pulled from the last 2 seasons in the NFL. So as you guys can see, player A on the left, player B on the right here. So in player A, in the last 2 seasons, he's averaged just over 15 PPR points per game, which is a wide receiver's 13 pace across last season, on about 7 targets per game and half a touchdown per contest. Whereas with player B in the last 2 seasons, he's averaged just over 14 PPR points per game, a wide receiver 20 pace of last season, on 7.75 targets per game and a half touchdown per contest. These 2 players are teammates on a team that just drafted a receiver viewed to be the best in the class by consensus in round 1, and doubled down on an offensive playmaker by drafting a capable 3-down back in round 2. One is a 3rd-round pick. The other is falling all the way to round 6, according to our multi-site ADP over in our redraft rankings manifesto. And speaking of our redraft rankings manifesto, it is the number 1 tool to crush your league mates in 2023. Between mine and Corey's top 200 rankings, our positional rankings, our rankings compared to your home league ADP, risk ratings, my true series, where I broke down patterns from every top player's 2022 fantasy football campaign, you guys will be fully equipped to take down the ultimate prize. And if you want all of this, there are 2 ways to access our manifesto right now. The first way, you guys can go over to Underdog Fantasy, use promo code FSC on your first deposit. And when you do so, Underdog will match your first deposit up to $100. So if you put in $50, you'll have $100 to enter some best ball contests over on Underdog Fantasy. Plus, of course, you get full access to our redraft rankings manifesto and weekly rankings throughout the 2023 season that will be updated week to week to help you guys with your start-sit decisions. And the other way to access it is to go over to flockfantasy.com. And if you use promo code FSC, you'll get 30% off of either package over on the site right now, whether you want to be a flocker or a mother flocker. Promo code FSC gets you 30% off of each of those packages, as well to our private Discord. If you sign up annually, you'll get a free Zoom consultation. So if you haven't done your draft already, we will literally hop on and help you draft your team. I've already done a few of those myself. Our manifesto is the best tool right now to get you guys in winning position for all of your fantasy leagues. Do not miss out on this opportunity. But going back to my top bust, if you guys haven't guessed already, the pair of teammates is DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett of the Seattle Seahawks. And I figured most would kind of know that. But the biggest surprise there is that Tyler Lockett was the one actually outproducing DK Metcalf. Tyler Lockett in that example was player A. DK Metcalf was player B. Now you're adding Jackson Smith-Njigba to take his target commanding profile to Seattle. You got a capable 3rd-down back, like I mentioned, with Zach Charbonnet, potentially commanding more passing work for the team's running back position comparatively to last year with Rashad Penny and with Kenneth Walker. I'm just very skeptical of DK Metcalf's overall ceiling, assuming he doesn't have the outlier of all outliers in the touchdown department. And the way I look at DK Metcalf right now in the mid-3rd round is, why would I take DK Metcalf when a guy like Calvin Ridley should be staring you right in the face? But moving off of Seattle, we head over to Cincinnati with our number 2 player to let your Buffoon League mates draft, and that's Joe Mixon, running back of the Cincinnati Bengals, going off the board as the running back 13, 35th overall player on multi-site ADP. And staple of the channel makes another appearance. I cannot for the life of me understand the optimism surrounding Joe Mixon, aside from the projectable workload he has on a good offense. And for ease sake, let's do another blind player comparison for context. So as you guys can see, guess the player. We have player A at the top and we have player B at the bottom. And with player A, 302 opportunities in 17 games, about 17.76 per game. On the number 1 offense in the NFL in terms of points per game and offensive yardage output, he was number 6 in weighted opportunities with about 244 and scores 12 touchdowns on said great offense. Year 6 in the NFL, high fantasy success in his past. And despite all this, he showed a clear downtick in efficiency from his prime. Ends up as the running back 11 in points per game despite a top 3 round ADP. And in the following year, he sees his opportunity share take a big hit due to his inefficiency. And he never regained status as one of the best backs in the NFL as he was viewed in his prime. Sees his points per game drop off to about 12.39 PPR points per game. With player B, you have 287 opportunities in 15 games played, about 19.1 per game, on the number 7 offense in terms of points per game and the number 8 offense in terms of offensive yardage output per game. He was number 11 in terms of weighted opportunities with about 243 and scores 9 touchdowns on said great offense. Year 6 in the NFL, high-level fantasy success in his past. And despite all this, he showed a clear downtick in efficiency, ends up with 16 PPR points per game, with 23.9% of his entire seasonal output coming from one phenomenal game. Barely pays off at ADP or was a silent killer as coined by Pat Kerrane in our legendary upside video on the channel right now. And you guys are going to want to cover your ears for this one. These 2 players are 2021 Ezekiel Elliott as player A, 2022 Joe Mixon as player B. We love all the peripherals about each player: scoring opportunity, projectable workload, past success. But a lot of fantasy players fail to realize that workloads aren't sticky year to year, and they're mostly based on current effectiveness rather than past merit. Betting on these types of running back profiles cause you to miss out on some phenomenal profiles at wide receiver and the onesie positions in this range of your draft. By selecting Ezekiel Elliott at his 3rd round ADP in 2022, you pass on guys like A.J. Brown. You passed on guys like Patrick Mahomes, who were both significant advantages at wide receiver and quarterback respectively, most likely to secure your running back too, which is a common mindset of a lot of home leagues. I just plead with everyone out there, everyone watching this video right now, I plead with you. Do not make the same mistake you made with Ezekiel Elliott last year with Joe Mixon this year. I just plead that you are not the buffoon in your league who takes Joe Mixon in the 3rd round. And my number 1 player to let your Buffoon League mates draft is going out of Pittsburgh right now with Najee Harris, running back of the Pittsburgh Steelers. And like many running back profiles on this list, the main allure with Najee Harris is the projectable workload. It's not his talent level. And in fact, I think at this point in his career, it's fair to say that Najee just may not be a very good NFL running back. The problem with betting on these archetypes, like mentioned before, is that the team will play whoever helps them win football games. And Najee's tether onto a bell cow role may just be in jeopardy based on the efficiency of emerging backup Jaylen Warren. And in terms of last year, keep in mind, this is when Jaylen Warren was a rookie running back on that team. But Ryan Heath of Fantasy Points, like mentioned before, recently tweeted out that last year, 4.02 yards from scrimmage per touch, which would have ranked as the running back 48. 0.24 missed tackles forced per touch, running back 14. 2.63 yards after contact per touch, which ranked as the running back 38 in the NFL. And 0.92 yards per route run, the running back 33. Whereas across the board, Jaylen Warren absolutely demolishes his efficiency marks. 5.65 yards from scrimmage per touch, running back 8. 0.29 missed tackles forced per touch, running back 6. 3.1 yards after contact per touch, running back 14. And then 1.31 yards per route run, which ranked as the running back 17, despite the limited sample size we saw from Jaylen Warren last year. There's a real possibility that with Warren entering year 2, this team may just hand the keys to the more efficient player as it fights for a playoff spot in a loaded AFC. And while I don't necessarily expect Najee to get completely phased out or even downright lose the starting job, given the draft capital investment the team made in him, I do expect him to see much more work than pro Najee people would like to admit. And this is just evidenced by the preseason usage. We saw that in 4 drives with Kenny Pickett, 28 snaps in the preseason this year. The Steelers running back snaps were split 16-12 in favor of Najee over Jaylen Warren. And like Graham says here, This was a 60-40 committee backfield to close out last season, and I think that should continue. Like, Jaylen Warren looks efficient, looks great on every single one of his touches. Najee Harris, not so much. So the Steelers have no incentive to just give Najee Harris that 85%, that 80+% workload opportunity share that he saw as a rookie. I think that might lie closer to the 60-65% range. And if that's the case, this could end up being a Zeke Pollard situation from a couple years ago, where Najee's ceiling, like Zeke, is severely capped by the more efficient, fresher back. And we really need to bank on goal line usage to even pay off. But unlike Ezekiel Elliott, as much as I like the Steelers offense to improve, he won't be playing on the #1 offense in terms of points per game and yards per game. The Steelers offense, even though I think they could be better, don't even hold the candle to what the prime Cowboys years were when it comes to Zeke in terms of touchdown opportunity. But either way, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you leave a like mentioned before. And like I said, 83% of you watching in these last 28 days are not subscribed. Let's change that. If you guys got some value in this video, that's not hard for you guys to do, and it helps us grow a ton in the YouTube algorithm. But with that being said, hopefully you guys enjoy your Tuesday. Take care.